I grew up in St. Paul and went to high school at Trinity, got my finance degree from University of St. Thomas and my law degree from University of Minnesota. And since then I've been working in Eric Paulson's office, which I think gives me a unique ability to understand what it takes to be a legislator and what it takes to actually pass and be effective and represent the people of your area best. That was definitely one of the things that influenced why I chose to live in Chanhassen, but in a larger part is because I was looking for a community that I had shared values with. And over the last couple of months since we've gotten into this election, and I've spent time, we've knocked on hundreds of doors and made thousands of phone calls. And I've really found that is the case. The people here share the same concerns and values that I do. They're concerned about the high taxes that we have coming in. They're concerned about the cost of health care. They're concerned about transportation and education. I got into this race, I got a call from a legislator back in June, and they said, you know, Jake, we think that you would be a good candidate. And I kind of spent the summer thinking about it and talking about it and with my family and my friends and praying about it. In September I got in the race because I think that we have so many important issues to deal with that there's not time to wait, and we need to start engaging the next generation of voters. You know, the millennial generation now makes up the largest part of the voting bloc, but they are typically apathetic. They really don't normally care about who is running or care to vote at all. And I've found since I got into this race that I think I have a unique ability to help encourage and reach out to and attract those two types of voters and bring them into the party and bring them into the voting booth. You know, I'd like to focus on some of the major issues. For Carver County, it's a big part about taxes. You know, we were hit hardest by the fourth tier of any county in the state of Minnesota. Right now we have a $1.2 billion surplus left over after they moved some of it over to the rainy day fund. It started at $2 billion. To me, that screams that the government took too much money. It's your money. We should find a way to give it back to you. I think transportation is a critical issue, especially light rail out here. We need to stop the encroachment of light rail. I think it's a big waste of money that Minnesotans and especially the people of Carver County are looking for ways to spend it on proven reliable transportation, our roads, our bridges, and if we're talking about mass transit, our busing system. The Southwest Metro busing system is one of the best in the state. I think that I am the most experienced candidate in this race, especially if we're talking about terms of legislative ability. I've spent the last 4 years working in Congress with Eric Paulson, who is currently the only member of Congress to have passed a substantive repeal of Obamacare. I understand what it takes to move good legislation through a gridlock and partisan system, and I'm the only candidate here who will be ready on day one to effectively represent the people of Carver County. It's certainly, I'll take the underdog mantle in this one. That's fine with me. I think that there's very little you can control in politics. The only thing that you really have control over is how hard you're willing to work. And I can guarantee that I will be the hardest working candidate in this race. I think we've already shown that to many of the people of this community by the fact that we have been out door knocking every single weekend since mid-October. We've been making phone calls every single day since September. That's the reason we've been able to hit on hundreds of doors and make those thousands of phone calls. And I want to take that same attitude from this race, and if I am endorsed and hopefully elected, to be the hardest working senator for the people of Carver County. You know, I'm sure it has, you know, but I want this to be a race about me, and my father has kind of been playing it that way as well. When I first got into it, there were definitely a couple of times that I went to him and asked his opinion or advice, and I think he really wanted me to prove that I was capable of doing this without his help and assistance, because if I would ask him a question, his response would always be, "That's very interesting, Jake, what do you think?" Well, I know what I think, Dad. I'm looking for a little bit of the experience here. But in doing that, I think he really helped me, because it gave me an ability to make this race my own and to put my own team together and basically do this on my terms. We're going to continue the grassroots movement that we've been working with. We're going to be talking to delegates, reaching out and trying to bring in new voters, as I mentioned, both young voters and people who just typically haven't been involved before. I think a big part of that is messaging. You know, I think as a conservative, we have a hard time going through the mainstream media and going through the traditional methods of messaging. So I think that it's incumbent upon us as candidates, if we want to make sure that our message is getting across to voters, to take it into our own hands. That's why we've been so active on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, you name it, we're using it. And I think that's going to be a critical part of bringing in not only younger voters, but also voters that don't traditionally pay attention or care. You know, I want them to know that I will be the hardest working candidate for them and that I'm here to listen to their concerns, because I think that this is truly a job about being a public service and being a public servant. And what that means is that more than anything else, that I want to hear their concerns, that I want to hear what they care about. And that's why we're working so hard to reach out directly to every individual voter and get them involved in the process.